Take your own.
Okay, welcome everybody out to the regular scheduled Planning Commission meeting for July 9th, 2022. Please remind everybody to turn your phones or silence your phones while we're here. We will get started tonight, and you know what? I didn't preface this, but it would be your turn. Are you prepped?
I am prepared.
I am so sorry I didn't. Okay, so we do have a full quorum here. In fact, everybody's here. Ooh, even a golf hat. Like it.
Dapper Dan here.
And we will have the flags salute and invocation by Commissioner Gardiel. Please arise.
Okay, repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I offer this evening the words of Chief Tsialakum of the Squamish and Duwamish tribes, better known to many of us as Chief Seattle. This we know, the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites one family. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. We do not weave the web of life, we are only a strand of it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Disclosure, please, starting with Commissioner Gardiel.
No conflicts.
Commissioner Larson.
Just need to disclose that on item C, 3C, I do business with John Crockett Construction.
Okay. Sorry, Commissioner Morris
No conflict.
and Commissioner Clifford.
No conflicts.
And no conflicts for me this evening. Okay, looks like we're rolling right into a public hearing. Yay. This is a continued public hearing regarding a concurrent land and zoning amendment located at approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive at the southwest corner of Black Desert Resort that abuts to the Sitla parcel land use from low-density residential to resort commercial, and zone amendment from RA5 residential agricultural 5-acre lots to resort commercial on approximately 8.44 acres. NLaw LLC owner Stephanie Nast, applicant. Okay, Mike, you're up.
We have a better map this week. This is the shaded area that we are talking about. It's on the Black Desert property. It's off of Snow Canyon Boulevard and next to the Sitla property. The Sitla property is currently going through a zone change requesting the same zone, the RMU zone.
Okay. Do you want to propose or talk about it at all, please, if you'd like?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that this land is to be used to keep 18-wheelers off of Snow Canyon Parkway and out of the project. So they'd come in Pioneer Parkway, up Red Mountain Road, and then to this spot, and then we'd have our smaller vehicles go over into the resort. Also, this is the area that we've set aside for the Dixie State or Utah Tech men's and women's golf facilities. And also wanted to mention that I don't remember if there were two or more people that last meeting suggested that this was that the prior was confusing on where it was, and I did a site tour with Sharon Barton and CJ Hornacek last week and took them all over, and I guess they're not here because they're no longer opposing. I thought they'd be here supporting, but that's it. Any questions for me?
I do have one question. So you're talking about the road that abuts it right on the side, lower side there, and where it cuts through actually the Sitla property there.
That's right.
Now, what is the complete, so you're planning to bring the trucks in that direction, correct?
Yeah, so this road here is Red Mountain Extension. So it'd run up through our property. So we're putting this road in, and that hits down to Pioneer Parkway down here.
Okay, that's what I was curious of, is if that road will be completed, so if this is, that this is going to have that access right up front.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. So we will open the public hearing. Remember to keep correct decorum and not to, no cheering or clapping. Please, when you come to the mic, state your name and your address and your position. Public hearing is now open. Do we have?
Mr. Chairman, we have no one online.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I think that seems pretty clear. So we will close the public hearing and with the note that we had no comments for or against. And we will move on to 3B, which is discuss and consider the recommendation regarding the concurrent land and zoning amendment located at approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive at the southwest corner of Black Desert Resort that abuts the Sitla parcel. Land use from low-density residential to RC Resort Commercial, zoned RA5 to Resort Commercial zoning on approximately 8.44 acres, MLaw LLC and Stephanie Nast applicant. Do we have questions or comments on this from the commission? Remember to turn your mics on.
I just
Yes.
have one question, because I was not a part of this when it was first being developed. And it seems that we are rezoning piecemeal. Can you talk to why that is the case?
So I believe the project's changed a little bit. Yes, you are correct. But I think it's for the better to get semis coming off of Pioneer Road is a benefit. So, and also the school, in support of the golf course, the golf program is also in support of the conditional use permit that's already been approved. So, yeah, yes, these are changes, but I think that they're, personally, in my opinion, they're better.
So what I'm hearing then is this is the evolution of the development, and where there are evolving plans, then we are rezoning to align with those. Was there not some overall zoning strategy when this began? And I realize, things change, and I wasn't even here when that began.
So, okay, Dale?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Dale.
The initial resort commercial on the highway of the Snow Canyon Parkway, that has always been zoned that. So they didn't have to go through zone changes to do the first part of their project. Their conditional use permit, I believe it was that, in that document, where they anticipated 18-wheelers and some parking to the south, but they didn't know exactly where that was going to be located. The Dixie State or Utah Tech golf teams, that is something that is a little bit new. And so they selected this area that's kind of in a depression area. And so it fit their needs very well. They met with them on site, and they loved the site. And so that is the reason this area has been selected as where they want to do this zone change to service the university, as well as deliveries from Pioneer Parkway rather than Snow Canyon Parkway. They were always trying to avoid any large trucks entering the project off of Snow Canyon Parkway. They were always planning on somewhere along Red Mountain Drive, or whatever the full name is, along Red Mountain, that's where these vehicles would come. So this is this is consistent with what their original project envisioned. The item that is new is the university embracing this site and them being allowed to use this site as kind of their golf practice area. And So that seems like a good thing for the community.
And I concur, and I know that the developers are doing a wonderful job. I'm just looking at, the development keeps coming back to rezone this, rezone that, just as long as this rezoning is in alignment with the intent of what the zoning that was given to the development in the first place.
Yeah, and like I say, most of that along the parkway, they didn't have to rezone at all. It was already zoned. All of this in the middle with that's the golf course with lava in between it. So I don't expect another rezoning to come forward somewhere in there. There might be, something along the parkway. Is the Layton piece rezoned yet or no? So there is one little parcel that they acquired and are adding to this project that may be incorporated into the project and have its own zoning, or its zoning similar to the resort. It would have a buffer area of residential, but that's not what we're talking about here. But just in answer to your question, there may be one more zone change coming for a little parcel that they acquired that was abutting, that's just on the other side of the western corridor. And so it was a win-win for the seller and Black Desert Resort to incorporate that into their resort.
And the city.
And the city, yes, to get it developed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other?
Mr. Chair? Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Clifford.
One question, what is the anticipated structures that would go on this property?
That I'm not
I
exactly
mean,
sure.
you don't need to exactly say, but I'm just curious.
It's like the back of the house is what I understand.
The back of the house.
Back of the house where you have a place where supplies can be dropped off there before redistributed to the resort, and also the Dixie State buildings for their school. Is there any others? Is that it? Okay.
So it's kind of a warehouse concept? Is it covered? What's it gonna look
Yes,
like?
it's buildings. So like Mike said, we have laundry facilities there, and then we have cold storage. So we have designed right now 16 restaurants in Ivins at Black Desert, and we don't want all those Cisco trucks going in. So they all have separate refrigerated systems, and then we deliver there, put it into their refrigerator, and then as they need it, we put it on smaller vehicles and take it to the restaurant,
Okay, so it's a staging center for.
basically. But it's all buildings. It's not an open pit of stuff. It's
Okay.
Contained.
So what part, will the school have some structure there as to, I imagine?
So they're going to have their short game facility for practice, and then they're going to have indoors men's and women's locker rooms, then some game room, living room. It's a recruiting tool, really, as much as anything for the university.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other comments and questions? Can I get a motion? For or against, either way.
That's good.
Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Morris.
I move that we recommend a concurrent land use and zoning amendment located at approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive at the southwest corner of Black Desert Resort that abuts to the Sitla parcel. Land use from low-density residential to RC, resort commercial, and zone amendment from RA-5, residential agricultural, minimum lot size 5 acres, to RC, resort commercial, on approximately 8,444, 8 point. Sorry.
Wow, that was a big
Wow,
one.
this is a big,
That's a big
big
place.
perk for the golfers, man. 8.444 acres, in-law LLC owner Stephanie Nast applicant.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend and a second for, do I have to say this all again? for regarding the concurrent land use zoning amendment located approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive at the southwest corner of Black Desert Resort that abuts Sitla parcel. Land use from low-density residential to resort commercial and zone amendment from RA5 to resort commercial on approximately 8.444 acres, LLC owner, 70S applicant. Can I get a roll call on that? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me, so it's unanimous. Okay. Moving on to 3C, discuss and consider recommendation of Blackstone preliminary plan located approximately Main and Old Highway 91, John and Ellen White, owner, and John Crockett, applicant. Okay, Mike?
So the Blackstone subdivision is along Highway 91 where Red Mountain Boulevard meets the future Jacob Hamblin Boulevard, and is south of the Red Mountain subdivision that we are currently working on subdivision for. The project has been coordinated with the Highway 91 project and future Jacob Hamblin Parkway improvements.
Which is the western corridor.
Yeah.
Santa Clara named it.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments on this one?
Mr. Chair, I just
Yeah.
had one. I'm looking at the site plan.
Commissioner Guardiola?
Thank you. And there is and I didn't bring my glasses in, but there's a schematic of what I assume is outside the wall, between the wall and the street. Thank you so much. Ah, there we go. Amazing. Yes, it says that it is either concrete sidewalk or asphalt trail. Could you explain what that means? Thank you.
So the trail system, so the developer has to put in parts of the trail system. And so they're given the options of how to do it. And that's the options that Chuck has given them to accomplish their requirements.
So it will be one or the other,
Yes.
right? And
We'll get more
find out what that
detail
is later.
on the construction drawings, exactly what material it is. And so that's done between now and preliminary plat is when we will see exactly what materials are used.
Thank you.
Would the applicants like to speak, give a little information on this? State your name and that.
My name is Alex Stewart. I'm a representative of John Crockett, and I'm employed at Civil Science, and we're the consulting engineers on this project.
Pull that mic up a little bit,
Okay.
it's hard.
Is that better?
A little bit, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So yeah, that depiction that you're seeing there is just, it's an example blow up of what the landscaping could look like in this specific area of the site. And so depending on where you're looking on the site, it could be a concrete sidewalk or an asphalt trail. So that area that you're seeing right there in that detail is showing just along the western corridor. That is kind of that southern road that curves down. from
That's
east
the
to
only
west.
spot that would have one or the other, everything.
That, in that specific area, we are going to be proposing an asphalt trail, and you will see that in the final construction drawings. There will be more detail of that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
yeah. No problem.
Any other comments or questions on this one? This looks pretty standard, 7.5, looks like lot size.
Any, are there any other amenities that they're planning in here? Did they go for any,
No, this isn't the RM zone, this is a straight up subdivision.
Yeah. Detention, and they have to have their own detention basin. Yeah, this looks pretty straightforward to me. I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Guardiola.
it also says in here, preliminary landscaping plan, preliminary lighting plan. What popped into my head about the lighting plan is since we have, depending on where in the city, what those lighting standards are. This is in alignment with this location. The lighting is in alignment with the standards in that part of the city.
Yes, and the construction drawings will reflect that.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Morris.
I move that we recommend approval of Blackstone preliminary plan located at approximately Main and Old Highway 91. John and Ellen White, owner, John Crockett, applicant.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to recommend from Commissioner Morris and a second from Commissioner Guardiola to motion to recommend for approval Blackstone preliminary plat located approximately Main and Old Highway 91, John and Ellen White, owner, John Crockett, applicant. Can I get a roll call vote on this? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me, so it's unanimous. Okay, moving on to 3D. Okay, here's the big one. So 3D is discuss and moderate income housing. And I'm sure this goes into our plan, city plan, and everything else, I imagine.
Yeah, this is the second discussion we've had. So the original discussion, I think you guys wanted to see what staff had thought. I think the best way to label these are the far left column, A, B, C, D, E. So as we talk tonight, I think it'd be good to say A or O or which subject we're on, so everybody could follow along easily. So hopefully you had a time to look over staff's recommendations, and we're anxious to hear what you guys think about your top solutions, and start putting a list together to pass on a recommendation to City Council.
Before we,
Yes, Commissioner Clifford.
yeah, before we actually dig into the A to Z here, I guess I'd just like some information. I've been trying to find, but I couldn't see. Do we have any HUD approved or Section 8 housing in the city at all?
I don't believe so.
You don't think so?
We had some self-build housing with Color Country. And the other project was by riders there, those townhomes. In each building there were, I believe there were 2 units that were to be more affordable, and that was done through the owner of the property, and I think it was done through their financing mechanism. But that's it.
So it's never been considered, as far as you know, in the city at all?
No, in fact, there's a lot of times when we talk about high-density projects and apartments or something, the public has been afraid of public subsidies of affordable housing, thinking that will become like some kind of projects development, and so
We don't have railroad tracks.
so they.
We have a highway, though.
So the public has expressed negativity about going down that road, I guess.
Okay.
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Morris.
It seemed last time like we tried to solve the problem, when in reality, I think what we're supposed to do is just come up with strategies that will work in helping solve the problem. I mean, in other words, we haven't been tasked as a planning commission to solve the problem. We're just being tasked with coming up with, Mike, how many?
3, but you also need a road to get there also. So you can't just give 3 suggestions, you also need to provide suggestions on how to get there.
So 3, so we're looking for 3 things that we can pass up to,
Out of
or,
that list.
you know, because this isn't on us. I mean, I felt like last time, like we walked away like, okay, well, how are we gonna fix this? But if we come up with our 3 things in map, then it's passed up to the city council, right? I mean, it's not, these are suggestions we're supposed to pass up to city council
Yes.
for them
Yeah.
to
So-
approve
so,
and ensure that they have a roadmap for the success
And at one point, it needs to be codified into the general plan also.
by the city council.
Yeah. So
Okay.
your
Well said.
recommendation, right now, the discussion is just on these. It will turn into a general plan discussion, and then before October, it needs to be sent and approved by city council.
And I honestly do not believe that this is something that we can solve. It's not a solution. We're trying to get closer to what's needed. I don't know that there is really a way to solve it altogether. It's always gonna change. It's always gonna be a thing we're always dealing with. So I don't think it's a solving it. That's more of a get our minds together and see what we can do to make it better. So where do you want to go with this, Mike?
I think that's up to you. I think if you want to start discussing, maybe throw out a couple ideas that each of you have on what your favorites are, I think that would be a good place to start. And then we can see if there's a common ground somewhere. I think if you notice, staff has tried to stay away from solutions that take either manpower or general fund budget lines and a little bit more costly
On the city
solutions.
side, yeah. Well, I will always, and I'm probably gonna do it every time, just so I get it in there. One of my big solutions is obviously annexing the ground south. And I know you're sick of hearing it, but I'm gonna say it every time, because eventually something might happen. I actually looked at that property too a little more closely this last time and looked at the path of the road. The road actually drops down in a valley as it's gonna make that path. And which makes it perfect for being able to do higher buildings in that area and not block views. To do something like that commercial under residential type setup. So,
Well, you're talking about a synergistic type approach, which there are some of those in the solutions where you join with other
Yeah.
cities and other organizations to come up with
And that's marked
those
in
type
mine.
of projects. Yes.
but anyway, that's, on the big scale, that's what I would like to see. But on the short term, so looking over what the staff report, so I'm not sure I understand exactly what they, and maybe I just didn't read this right. I'm not sure I'm understanding what they proposed or what they feel is their decisions here as I look over this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so Chuck started this, so his is the first column, and he started assigning some scores
Okay.
as to going from not really feasible to, yeah, that's a possibility. So rezoning for densities necessary to facilitate the production of moderate income housing, item A, the very first one.
Right.
He rated that a 5, saying that's been our current strategy. That was one of the choices that we had picked before. The state had offered that same option, and we picked that, and we rezoned for some densities. They started out as lower priced homes, but the prices quickly rose, and
The market took over.
and no longer were affordable, but yeah, the market takes over, and so that's why you're correct. I don't know that we can solve the problem, but we can do some tools that the state is pushing real hard that they see as easy solutions or easy options for us to do that will lead to more affordable housing. And yes, maybe they're more affordable than the typical single-family home. Maybe a townhome is a little less money, but to meet moderate income housing, 80% of median income, it's not meeting that.
No, Yeah, no, we did that, we started that math 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And talked about that, and it's, yeah, that's, what that relegates to in today's market is a home in the area of 210 to 280,000, depend, a few factors in there. There's not even a condominium in Ivins that,
That's
fits
almost the
that.
land itself now.
well, and that's what I brought up. I looked up land available in Ivins, and there was one lot for 179, everything else was 300 and above. So, yeah, that's a problem.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
in light
Commissioner Guardiola.
of what Dale has just said, perhaps a place to start would be looking at those items on this list that are ranked as a 5 or a 4, and not look at the others to say that these are the most feasible. I'm finding that some of the ones I suggested align with 5 or 4, others don't, but as I've read through the wording, I thought, oh, I can see why that one won't work. So that would certainly cull the list of the ones we're reviewing.
Okay? So,
And it appears to me the 5s are out because we've already done them, or the state has already done it, or we already have, so it seems like the
Well, like
3 5s.
ADUs, there's more you can do with ADUs.
What else can we do?
Maybe change the size
of them.
requirements, or
Maybe do
allow
some incentives.
an attached garage, or, there may be some things there, or multiple of ADUs. But I don't know how where you want to go with it, but it is an option. So if you pick that as a solution, you also have to have a plan to get there.
We just have to tweak the ADU to make it more
Just look at the,
Yeah.
simpler.
So,
what the requirements are.
Okay, well, that's a good one.
well, just like you say, 5, the number 1, or the A
There's
is a
only 3.
5.
Yeah,
And
there's
obviously, we've already done that one, but again, tweaking what's there. So do you want me to just run through them then, all the 5s and 4s? And then
yeah, we,
just do that? Okay, so starting off, like we said, A was rated as a 5, that is rezone for density necessary to facilitate the production of moderate income housing.
As we look at these, are we going to also talk about a scorecard? Or do they care? If we throw these things out, do they even care if we have any measure to indicate that we're getting anywhere? Or they just want some paperwork? I'm dead serious on this. I mean,
No,
if
no,
we're
I
just playing a
understand.
game with the state, then we just pick 4 and forget about it.
Well, like I say, we have to have a path to there at
Well,
the same time,
how-
but.
Commissioner
Okay.
Clifford and I have the same feeling, and we'd be going home earlier tonight.
Well, we do have to.
No, not really. I spent a lot of time on this in my prior life because we actually went and we put some housing in that was Section 8 up in where I was, and it was interesting because we really went after the low-income housing. And it was fought for quite a while by the community until we convinced, I guess, that it was the right thing to do. But it fit a couple of these. It was on a major road. It was on Highway 89, and it was some property that had not been used for anything else. And it sounds a little bit like 91, a piece of property out there. But it was funded by a government loan, and it put in as Section 8 housing. And it was initially, I thought we were going to get run out of town on a rail, but it turned out to be a very nice complex of townhomes that went in there and provided some really needed lower-end housing.
So here's what I see in
So,
that situation.
My question is, are we really wanting to go that way, or do we just want to check a box? I'm serious.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Well-
Dale.
choosing 3 or 4 of these is kind of checking the box. But then you have to come up with, what's your strategy or your plan to achieve that? And then every year we have to report to the state the progress we're making. And so there is a scorecard of some sort involved in this. We have to report to the state and tell them what's going on. So it's a little of all of that, but your point's well taken. The report up until now has been oversimplified and not really
Any teeth in it.
Yeah, not really any teeth in it. I haven't studied the new report, it just came out. Mike, maybe you have. Is that it there?
It's in our packet, isn't
It
it?
was in the packet, but it was pretty bland. I mean, it like,
Yeah.
didn't say much. Well, it appears to me that we got the fives, the rezoning and accessory units are things we're doing. And we can say we'll do more of that, maybe tweak it a little bit. Those things are not radically different.
My issue I see with that particular one, which is a great concept, and it's one of the ones I've marked myself,
Was,
where do you do it? You're talking about area, say, area 9, or Highway 91.
oh, yeah, but that's basically what
There's-
you're talking about and what the mayor was talking about by going to an agency and saying, BLM or whoever owns it, and I'm not even sure who owns it all, but see if they would have some way of allowing the city to annex that property, but the city would end up owning it. And it would be a funded project as far as the land's concerned.
Well, yeah, if we can do that annex, and I would love to do that, but currently speaking, right now,
Yeah.
there's hardly any room left on 91 to be able to put any of these projects.
No, there isn't. I
You
don't
know,
know.
and so,
Property
you know, so when we
manager.
talk about A, it sounds like an easy, like, you know, low-hanging fruit as we talk about, but it's actually not, because where else do we put it? We've already zoned some areas, but where else do we go with it?
So
Mike,
if
you
you
got
look at the zone changes we've done over since I've been here, I don't think any of them would meet moderate income housing.
No.
So they're going to be above that level. So yes, you may pick that as a solution, but you got to have a partner and funding
To make it happen.
to make it happen. So yes, that may be a way to do it, but you'd have to do something a little bit more than just rezone. You'd have to maybe allow a new type of unit that's more of a studio unit where you have the possibility of doing that. So you're not just talking about, you know, how you're zoning, you have to make it so it can be moderate income housing.
Right. So, okay, so if we're talking about that, then back to the annexation. Is it technically possible? Can we make that happen? Because it seems to me like we don't have any place to really develop what we need to. We need more space to be able to meet their guidelines and for us to be able to control the land around us so that we don't end up with a problem. So it almost seems like that is as I was speaking of it, as a huge thing, but it almost seems to me now that it's more like, it's almost necessary to be able to do what we need to do.
So more of the synergistic approach is get with BLM, the other cities and county and the school district, and maybe work on some type of a program where you build homes for teachers, where the school district can build the house. You know, I've seen programs like that,
I've
and
seen
they've
those
been
too.
very successful. And there's very little involvement other than being part of the team. So those are options on there. You may not be able to do the project that you're thinking of,
Well,
but you
yeah.
may be able to work with other city organizations to make something like that happen. We all are hiring employees, and jurisdictions throughout the valley are having a hard time finding people to move down here because of housing costs.
I know. My wife works for the district. I get that. Commissioner Larson.
You know, I think it's not only just a rezone, but you've got to redo some of the building codes. Because ultimately, you've got to have more doorknobs per acre to make it affordable. Land is a huge cost.
Right.
And, you know, is there a section of land, like, you know, down south of Riders where that land drops off, where we can allow 4 stories, for instance? Really, you've got to, you know, be creative and look at situations like that, I think, to be able to make it. And, you know, Santa Clara's been really good at putting, you know, stuff on our border. Maybe we should put some stuff on theirs.
It's a land war.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of my point with where the southern corridor goes, where it drops into that valley, could be that
So,
situation.
Mr. Chair, one
Yes.
more thing. All these things are gonna take money, and in fact, that was one of the, as you read through all of the comments that were made by the staff, a lot of it were just, they said it's pretty much not feasible because you're not gonna get money out of the general fund, you're not gonna get this kind of money to have incentives to people to come in and do some of these higher density projects. Just off the top, I think one of the most important comments, maybe the one at the very end past X, where it says, "Is it time to look for a grant writer?" Because to get a lot of these things jump-started, you need to tap into money that's floating around in all kinds of agencies within the U.S. government that would allow some of this to happen. If you're trying to do this piggybacking on what our community is taking in just in its own revenue, I don't think you're gonna get much other than a little window dressing on accessory dwelling units and some waving our hands about the fact that, yeah, we're trying to zone for this, but none of that's working out real well. I think an influx of money or an influx of cooperation partnership, either through a grant process or through an
Interagency.
interagency groups, multiples, get people within Washington County maybe involved in this. I can't believe Washington County doesn't have the same problem, although I looked up today and there are 21 blocks of Section 8 housing in Washington County, which kind of interesting. We don't have any, but there are in the city, and they've gotten them somehow. So I think it's going to take a partnership, or it's going to take some money somewhere to make this happen. And even with the property idea, if somebody allows us to annex some property out there, that's only half the puzzle.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a cooperative effort to do
Yeah.
that, absolutely. And I think that was kind of the early on discussions, was the fact that we as a city knew we didn't have the money or the manpower to be able to do it. And so that's why we was trying to look at options that don't do that. So I guess where we're at is, what is the concept of us being able as a city to hire a grant writer and something like that?
Contract, that kind of stuff?
You should be able to. I mean, I don't know that much about it personally, so we'll have to look into it. Anybody knows anything about that, let me know.
It's a whole separate
Patrick's
world.
always great at finding unique funding sources. Maybe he can give us some suggestions, but, and he's given me one tonight that, you know, we'll pursue, but, you know, realistically, that one would take a long time, I think, but,
Which one is that?
well, I'm not gonna mention it right now, in public record, but we'll pursue some options, but we'll look for a grant writer, and we need to do so fast. I just don't know what's available. You know, a lot of them might be up in Salt Lake, and like was said, you know, it's hard to draw from the north to come down here for a job because there's no housing for them. You know, we extended an offer for a person, and they at first accepted it and came down and said, no, we can't live here. And so it's a very real concern. So, but we'll look into it, certainly.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Guardiola.
In today's world, everything is so virtual that we may be able to find a grant writer with whom we can work virtually. And so space just has become irrelevant in today's world. So there's someone out there, either in person or on the web.
True, good point.
Commissioner Larson?
Just want to know, is there a way to incentivize people to, you know, put in a basement and be able to rent that basement out if we had a. place
Accessory
for-
dwelling unit.
Yeah.
is good.
The accessory.
I just wonder if there's a way to incentivize that with, you know, teachers and whatnot, if we had a place where they could build a home with a basement and draw income off of that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a tough puzzle to solve.
So, everything we've talked about is great, and I really feel like we need to work in all of these different directions. But at the end of the day, we still got to come up with something here to work towards. So, obviously, we didn't like the idea of reading off the ones that were high score and determining if they had validity or not. So, do I have another suggestion from the commission as to
Oh,
how
you
they'd
just-
like to approach it?
Just go through those first, and we'll see how far you get before we,
Pass out?
before you get 3 or 4 that maybe you could flesh out and
Okay.
make it real.
Does, you know, to me, the three that are the fives are probably the most reasonable ones from my reading.
Well, and the staff
And
basically
as well,
said,
so need to go further than that. I mean,
Mr.
I
Chair,
would say the 5s and 4s, because the 4s could be an option, and leave everything else. Okay, so let me read the 5s really quick. Okay, I already read the first one, the rezoning and density necessary, blah, blah, blah. The next one that was rated at 5 is E, create or allow for reduced regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwellings, units, and residential zones. And again, we've already been doing this, we've already got stuff on the books for that.
somehow
We just have to
incentivize it.
alleviate it,
Yeah.
make it easier.
And then F, which is the other number 5, is zone or rezone for high-density or moderate-income residential developments in commercial or mixed-use zones near major transit investment corridors and commercial centers or employment centers.
We don't have
And that
those.
one there would fit right into the annexation, because we'd be right on the corridor, and doing something like that would work right there.
Well, yeah, I think the one that fits what you want to do is like M, but anyway.
What's that? No, go ahead, Commissioner Clifford, what was
Well,
that?
I think the one you're looking at, that would be the extension of what you would like to do by annexing,
No, yeah, that's
just
further.
annex. If you just annex it and turn it back into housing, it's just gonna do, it's exactly what it's doing now. But if you do like M, where that's a 4, by the way, demonstrate creation of or participation in community and land trust program for moderate income housing.
Yes.
Somehow, you've got to get the land out of the cost for the renter or the owner if they're selling them.
Yeah.
And the only way you do that is either by a land trust or some other funded agency that is actually supplying the land.
Yeah, so basically, as the cost goes up, theirs goes up, but not in that relative term, you know what I mean? So it's,
Because the land stays separate.
stays what it is, yeah. So the other 4 on the first page was demonstrate investments in rehabilitation or expansion of infrastructure that facilitates the construction of moderate income housing.
That was number 1.
That was number 4 on the first page, B, that's letter B.
if I may, we are looking at doing our impact fee studies and our general plan for those, some of those items. So that could be actually an easy one. If we look at the transportation corridors and assume a higher density along those, then that may check that box pretty easily, because we have something already in the works. That if we have some direction, that we oversize our infrastructure, like our sewer system, water system, in areas to provide for possible high-density uses, then that's what I think that they're asking for there.
Okay, so we're talking about major corridors, so we're talking Highway 91, Center Street, and what else?
Snow Canyon, the arteries,
Yeah, that's Center Street, which
major
is,
arteries.
yeah, Center Street and 91. What other ones do we have? Or that considered that?
So I don't know if they're major, but what we looked at during our land use discussion was Red Mountain Drive, 400 South, and 400 West. It's easier to show on the road map.
Well, okay, 400 south, 400 west, okay. Okay. Wow, that's, okay. Basically, what it is I read these and I look at them and I go, okay, how do they fit for us? You know what I mean? So when I read that one, great, sounds like a great option, but
Where?
where?
Yeah.
Where does that fit in what we already have? Because we are so limited on space.
So, Mr. Chair, in
Yes,
relation to that
Commissioner
question,
Well, that was F.
I'm looking at item F, zone or rezone for higher density or moderate
Okay.
income residential
Same one.
development in commercial and mixed zones near major transit investment corridors. Okay, so I guess the question is, maybe we have limited space, but are there other ways to better use the space we already have?
Yeah. Well, and that's true. But if they're basing it around corridors, then it's got to be based within those corridors, you know, what they consider to be high-traffic corridors. That's what I'm saying.
Right,
is,
but also we can say this might be something as the community continues to grow, maybe other opportunities will open up.
Yeah. For
So-
example,
Okay,
if
go
I may,
ahead. Dale.
take Center Street, between Rocky Vista and Vista School. Some of it's already zoned that, but it's always been talked about right up against the main corridor would be commercial.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's mixed use. You know, do we really have, or are we looking for big commercial things to come in? We're not looking for box stores.
No.
So they're gonna be smaller shops or things. It could be part of a big project, or it could be small separate projects, but right now we have a common owner. If they turn that into a commercial, some of it a commercial center with mixed use on top, they could have some shops on the bottom, they could have some restaurants. They could do some open space that flood out. Not to say that it's gonna be an outlet mall, but I was recently at, you know, what is it, Traverse Mountain Outlet Mall at the point of the mountain there by Salt Lake. And they have these walking corridors between shops on both sides. And they had live entertainment. And they had, you know, a DJ, a guy kind of running it. And that's possible if in a mixed-use environment. And you see a lot of it up north, but in our neck of the woods, you don't see it much. You're seeing it start to develop a little more in St. George. But when you put apartments above commercial, that actually becomes attractive, and because we don't have, you know, affordable rental places either. Now maybe the same thing happens with rentals, that the price just goes up, and especially if it was a pretty classy commercial corridor or something. But those are options that we kind of think of, well, this is commercial, so it can only be used for commercial. Maybe we ought to be thinking, we want some commercial here, but if we did a mixed-use project and brought in some more affordable housing for these people, I think it would attract a lot of people to it. I think a lot of people would enjoy living along a major corridor and up off the ground a little, you know, so you got a shop underneath you, and just kind of watch the happenings of the city a little bit, and it would be exclusive, especially if it had, like, you know, if it had underground parking or something, and You know, it could be really well done.
So
And
the-
so we ought to look at some of these areas instead of just saying, okay, this is gonna be a store here. It's just commercial. Maybe we ought to be thinking mixed use.
Mr. Chair.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. The one thing that I would have, just one second, one thing I would, the two things that I see with that, good and a bad, is good wise, that was something my kids always talked about, is there was no nightlife, there was no places to go, gotta have that kind of thing, you know, and they moved to Salt Lake for college, but they found that in Salt Lake, and it's similar to what you're talking about. That's where they ended up living, was in condominiums like that up there. So that's great. The other half of it is what we always talk about here is our line of sight. You know, where does that fall so that we don't end up with too tall a building? And we've already said that we may have to deal with that a little bit, but where does that fall on the negative side about too tall buildings and that kind of thing?
Right. You may need some breaks, you know.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if some of our laws result in a taking. I think that would be an interesting question to pose to the private property rights ombudsman. We haven't had to yet on Center Street because Rocky Vista pushed its building back 100 feet. But the time may come when somebody challenges that, and I don't know if it will be upheld, but we'll see. On 91, we did ask for an opinion, and the particular project had a single-story building and parking all in front. So all you saw was parking, and I would hate to see that on a major corridor, but.
Yeah.
But the ombudsman found that that wasn't a taking because they could use the space before you got to the taller building. If you said, well, we want to bring the building closer, and so it violated that 15-degree view angle. I don't know. I know there's a case out there that we had somebody one time say, you know, it's our ocean view. Well, they lost on the ocean view. And so it wasn't a taking. But it would be an interesting question to ask, and we'll wait for a proposal or someone to pitch that to the ombudsman.
Commissioner Dario.
A couple of thoughts, and I want to piggyback, Dale, on what you just said, and that as we have development opportunities, discussing with developers, here is part of our medium-income housing vision for the community. Can we talk possibilities of how what you are developing, especially commercial, can build that in? It's a discussion, who knows what would happen.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in my 45 years of living in Ogden, watching 25th Street go from a fledgling little street into a vibrant center, one of the things that happened was all of the historic structures were on the ground level, with a few exceptions. But they revitalized the second stories of those little buildings into very vibrant, desirable downtown condominiums, and they were for starter people.
Yeah.
I had neighbors whose kids would go into, and they were of an age where they loved all of the vibrancy of what was happening on 25th Street. And so it is a symbiotic, dynamic relationship. So just thinking differently than, I think it gives us the opportunity to go to various evolutions in how we play out these options we select.
Yeah, I agree. Did you have a comment, Mike?
So I believe that the mixed use is a good option that would check off one of the boxes that would be possible. You may not have a developer in the next 5 or 10 years who may see that same vision, but if you make it possible for them to come, then I think that's checking a box. And it does provide for that opportunity. I think by developing a zone that limits height and maybe or limits density, but also gives a bonus if there's moderate income housing in there, like either more density or more height, that may be part of the solution, where you could give a developer something because he is providing that service.
Okay. Build it, they will come. Is that the theory? Yes, I can see the look on your face. Commissioner
Well, I'm
Clifford.
thinking, yeah. This isn't something, it's back to the accessory dwelling unit number E. I really think that has more legs than we've given it in providing some growth in the community. And it doesn't really require a huge amount of change to what we've already done. We got a lot of property in our city that has a lot of extra space on the property. And I think we're going to start to see as finances change in the lives of people, that many of our residents are going to look very favorably at perhaps some additional income that they could achieve by having a piece of property or something on their property that could generate income. And having the accessory unit, whether it's attached or a part of the unit, we could try to make that as friendly as possible to the people so that we'll see more of that. It's kind of like filling in the dead space in your community that's there already, and providing with that the idea that we have housing now that it's not going to be super affordable like some of these big projects could be that we have to go out for funding, but at least it's a grassroots movement that I think we've just seen the beginning of it. But could we augment that? Could we make it friendlier? Could we make it easier for people to do it?
So in that comment, so those dwellings, we're talking about a rental unit in that situation.
Yeah.
For the most part. So is there any, within this that we're trying to create, is there a certain amount that has to be like purchased homes, or is it, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
So your solution would be to reduce restrictions on ADUs. And how you get there is having a planning commission meeting and make a recommendation to city council on how you could relieve standards, like having one that's bigger than 600 square feet.
Right.
Because that's right there is basically a studio apartment, where is if you're trying to attract a teacher, then they may have a couple of kids and want something a little bit bigger as a rental until they could transition into a house.
All right, so I totally messed up my question, and I get that. My point is, are we trying to look for affordable housing in houses to buy, affordable housing in places to rent, or is there some combination of that we have to come up with? What is the goal as far as we're talking about rental versus ownership versus?
There's both, either rental
Both,
or
okay.
ownership. Either one has an income that you have to be able to meet.
We seem to have something going on here.
I would love to see a builder in Ivins come up with a really cool plan for an accessory dwelling unit that would fit maybe an 800 square foot that he could put in for, I don't know, give me somewhere around 80,000 or something, I don't know, give me a nice low number. And he starts marketing that. And goes around to all these little hidden pieces of property in our community that have these big garden backyards that aren't being used for anything. And maybe we find some way to incentivize them to do it.
My wife and I have talked about it in our place. We were going to put a pool in, and we decided not to. So I have a large area, but I couldn't fit with current standards. I would not be able to fit a mother-in-law residence, as we used to call them,
Yeah.
back there, because I wouldn't have enough room, between the house and that parcel, or that structure and the fence. But I don't know if that is something that they're looking at changing, I don't know.
That's what you would relax,
Yeah,
those footages.
so,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
yes.
I got a text. Someone in the audience may have a suggestion, if it's not a public hearing, but if you'd want to hear.
I would love their suggestion. Whoever would like to, yes, please come up and announce your name and who you are, and not that we don't already know.
Patrick Manning, Black Desert, I guess. One thought that you could maybe take a real deliberate approach and not worry as much about heights and some of the other things that are being suggested is maybe you take a look at your land use plan and deliberately say where some of these locations would be ideal. And then the city could approve, for example, in those areas used for this particular product that's needed, a PID that can issue CPACE, and then even more, take it another step further, maybe you get all the cities together and go to the county and school district and try to get a CRA approved so that the county, the school district, the cities are all participating and being able to make this affordable so that you don't have to have the rents because you're not paying as much for the infrastructure and some of those building components that CPACE.
You're talking about a redevelopment agency?
Yeah, community reinvestment now, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that way you can kind of pick and choose a little bit better where some of these where some of the more affordable housing can go. And then, I'm not in the affordable housing business because frankly, it's because I'm not smart enough, but I've got to solve it because Black Desert has to have it. And we have to be part of the solution, even though I don't know how to build cheap enough to make it pencil. And I'd be willing to do it at break even. But I can't even figure that out. But if we had a PID and if we had ability to CPACE, and especially if there was a CRA, we'd have the ability to build affordable housing, and we wouldn't need to go higher, and we wouldn't need more density. And so just a suggestion to maybe add to the list for discussion.
So to translate the acronyms, that's public financing for infrastructure, energy efficient construction, and using a model of tax incremental financing, but sharing that with the school district so that the school district is participating in the housing for its teachers. Not necessarily buying the property, but agreeing to a lesser portion of the income tax than it would otherwise receive in order to fund one of these types of housing units.
Yeah, again, though, that would go back to us having to have a person on staff here, I'm assuming, to be able to coordinate.
If the cost was shared between the school district, and all the cities, I don't think that the funding would be really that much if it was a shared program. And I think that's getting all the mayors together and have a sit down and say, hey, we all have the same problem. And even though you may not come to a solution, what you have done is you've checked a box and you've gone through your plan to make that happen. At the end, it may not become something that is affordable, but at least you've done something that could make a difference. And it could turn out to be an awesome project that everybody benefits from 5 or 6 years down the road. And it may work beautifully.
Where do we go from here? These are all great ideas. I honestly am at a loss as to where we.
Well, I think, I'm back on my soapbox, but again, I think the accessory dwelling unit's here to stay. The state's excited about it. Let's get really excited about it and see if we can make something happen there.
Okay,
So I would
which-
move that we suggest E as
That's
one of our
E.
three. okay? The other one, zoning for, I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's just easy money if you wanted to put that one down, but you have to show that you're doing something. So maybe the third one is the one that, is the one we haven't decided yet. Is that correct? Is everybody kind of on wave with that?
So what are the first two?
Well, accessory dwelling, we've
Which
already
is
got
E.
that.
Which
We're
is
gonna make
E,
that
all
as,
right.
make that as good as we can and try to,
Number 2, I'm still a little
Not any roadblocks.
wishy-washy on. What was your number 2?
well, number 2 is number A.
Oh,
I mean, that's the no-brainer, right?
okay.
You just show where you're trying to zone to,
If you guys end up with A, E, and F, I'm gonna be pretty upset. I want you to know that. So you gotta come up with something. Because about 30 minutes ago, I said, let's do A, E, and F, the 5s, and
Well, it just takes
let's
us
get this
longer.
done. And I agree that, I mean, these ideas.
work.
But see, that's why you need to have a committee for this, an actual, affordable housing committee, and they're the ones that need to do the legwork on pursuing the great ideas that we've heard tonight. I'm under the impression that we just need to pick 3 of these that will allow us another year of being able to work, with the Affordable Housing Committee at chairman, meeting together and pursuing these other grants and things of that nature. That's my opinion.
So here would be my suggestion for number 3 then. Number 3 needs to be one of these that we're bigger projects that we're talking about so that we have a foot in the door to move forward in one of these bigger ways. Commissioner Gardio.
okay?
I don't want to make Commissioner Morris cranky, but I was going to advocate for F.
I think it's great. A, E, and F. I mean, I've read them. I didn't understand that. I thought we had finished on ADUs, so
sure.
I was, that I thought, we've already done that. But when I hear that we can, lessen the footage thing or, make it so that great, because that's what I accomplished as the Affordable Housing Committee Chairman, was we swept ADUs and basements, we got it into the ordinance where it wasn't allowed before, wasn't even a part of it.
So I'm sorry, you might be mad because F kind of circles this, what we're circling around, right? With these bigger discussions, basically.
Well, it's mainly aimed at,
you make me right.
it's mainly though, A, with the idea that you got transit corridors, commercial centers, isn't it? I don't see a difference between. A and
Rezone
F.
for high density or moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones. That was what we were talking about, is the mixed use zones.
Sure, but isn't that A? I mean, it's just another way of saying,
Well,
The state doesn't see it that way.
yeah, A is nothing more than a density.
okay.
And A is nothing more than a density, where F is actually rezoning for some of these more creative processes that we're hoping for. In my opinion, is what I look at there.
I like the teacher idea. I like the 55 and older, that's way towards the back. Because, if you get affordable housing for senior citizens, you're not gonna have the raucous parties, I hope.
I want the raucous parties. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I want the kids to live here. I don't want this to be a stuffy old person. I got enough of them up here. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding.
There's a place.
I don't want raucous parties. I joke about saying that, but I want this to be a lively area to be, and not,
We want children.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Guardiola.
based on some of the discussion that I've heard here, I wonder if we want to have a fourth one just as an alternative. And I would recommend, based again on what I've heard, item T, ratify a joint acquisition agreement with another local political subdivision for the purpose of combining resources to acquire property for moderate income housing.
I like that one, yes. Was that one I had
That was
marked?
your-
It was.
That was your BLM one, yeah.
That would fit yours, and plus
Yep.
we'd be overachievers if we give them 4. And then, because this isn't our
That's a
decision.
stretch.
This isn't our decision, this is our recommendation. We can recommend 4, they can pick 3.
Yeah.
And that
Move
would
with
be, that would be good.
Okay, I like that. Give the extra. Okay.
So A, E, F,
And T.
and T.
Do we need to make a motion?
I just got a quick question, if that's okay. Commissioner Morris, where do we sit with the Affordable Housing Committee?
What committee?
It's been
I
disbanded or?
retired. Yeah, there's,
You gotta
they were supposed to
jumpstart it.
call a new guy for this year, and I don't think that's been done. Has that been done?
Maybe we should talk to the mayor about, or suggest the mayor, maybe we revitalize that committee and
Yeah.
get some
Yeah.
people on there to work on some of these problems and some of the
Especially
solutions.
if you give them some hope, give them something that they can actually do. But when studs went up to $8 a piece, it was hopeless.
Okay,
We're just working on the process right now, to be able to move it on. So, I think next week,
Yeah, put it on the agenda next
we
time.
could put it on the agenda as discussion one more time, and I'll put together these in paragraph form with ways of implementing it. We can.
avenues of making it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of it may be just as simple as having the meetings, and putting it on an agenda, to further add to the discussion on each item specifically. So, I think that'll probably be pretty easily, accomplished. And then in 2 weeks, we could talk about it one more time before we put it out to the public.
Okay,
And there is supposed to be a member from this group. that
Body
is
that's on there.
that Affordable Housing Committee.
okay. So okay, first of all, do we need a motion on this to move forward? No, we've got the discussion, we're good. Okay. Secondly, then, do we need to, who wants to take care of the mayor? We just need to make sure that we get started on another committee,
See, just,
one of us need to,
I can send him an email
okay.
and just say that that's what came out of our meeting tonight.
Okay, that'd be great, thanks. Okay,
Yeah, I would have still done it, but they asked me to do something at church. And so I would have been gladly to keep on, but I got involved with something else.
okay, so moving on then, so 3E, discuss short-term rental ordinance. This ought to stir some people.
So I think last week what we ended up on is, I'm working on a recommendation to the city council that dissolves short-term overlay, and a suggestion to the city council that they have a business license program installed. I'm not exactly sure. I presented an option to take resort residential, and instead of having the overlay in the resort areas, to just have a resort residential. Do you guys want me to eliminate that or proceed forward with that as a part of your recommendation?
Isn't that what it came to us was actually originally was to modify that, correct?
Yes, to either look at the short-term overlay ordinance and improve upon it, because Mike Scott, in an email to us, said that there's things that he didn't like about that. So as the discussion went on last meeting, I believe it was to do away with short-term rental overlay. The question is do we want to have in resort areas some type of resort residential option that is away from other neighborhoods as part of the recommendation?
So I'm not sure what we gain from that.
So right now you have some commercial options in resort areas that are in the ordinance that you combine a residential and a commercial. You don't have a place just for VRBOs specifically. It's underneath one contract where an area is controlled, the HOA maintains the garbage, the parking, the
Right.
streets,
Has to be on-site,
on-site.
on-site property management.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
within an hour.
So it's to clarify, if we are moving forward with just doing away with the short-term rental overlay, or if we want to follow this model proposed.
So it's either or is what we're talking.
I'm not sure it's either or.
It could be both.
Yeah, I think what you'd like to have is the idea that the overlay that we've had probably we should get away from that and let people apply individually for their own business license to do VRBOs or overnight rental. But if you've got an organization like Black Desert that's gonna do a whole section that way and manage it differently, not manage through the likes of a VRBO or
Right.
any of the other companies that manage those. They were managing it on their own, that's a whole different animal. So there's kind of a commercial and an individual version of it.
Okay.
And I think we really need
Okay, so we
both.
do want, I get what you're saying, yeah.
So the
That makes
resort,
sense.
resort residential would somewhat be the Sitla 120 right now.
Right,
Where there's not, it's
Where
more
it's
of a
got a
horizontal
central-
hotel.
right.
But this would have been an easier, clearer path for them in the
Right.
future.
Okay, yep, yes, that was what my plan was as I made that recommendation. Again, we need input from the rest of the commission on that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Dan.
I actually disagree with that last statement of Mike's. Sorry, Mike. In that, on the Sitla property, I favor the,
Individual?
no, the single,
The single management.
central management, on-site management, in that it be considered a horizontal hotel. That's too big of a project.
Well, isn't that what this is
bunch of
keeping in place?
But if you do, but you, you know, they estimated 30 to 50%, at least would be short-term rentals. You know, we would license a lot of individuals, but that all be using supposedly VRBO or something, or something similar. But the individual ones are the ones that we have historically had issues with. If you have a homeowners association enforcing the rules and it's on-site management, I think there's a lot less problems.
Well, and I've done a bunch of studies on this too, because I wanted to know where we sat on this. And actually, what I found is there's less crime in most of the areas with just individual homes like that than there are in general just housing, just because of the situation. But I think that's true that you've probably had problems with that, but were they licensed? Were they just
No.
running under and that's my point.
But they did it illegally anyway, and so if they don't have a license, they could still do it illegally. And you're not allowed to use the internet to see that they're advertising it as a short-term rental. And so you have to actually somehow, through a different means, catch them in the act, which is difficult to do from an enforcement standpoint,
Okay.
to say, you're actually a short-term rental, whether they're violating an ordinance or whether they're violating the licensing ordinance. Either way, they're violating an ordinance, and they're
Correct.
doing it intentionally, and they're getting away with it, and they're not paying the taxes.
And that's what I would like.
It's harder to
make the-
do, I think, the Sitla project as a commercial hotel, and the Sentier project, not all of them have to continuously have all of their lockoffs in the rental pool.
Right.
They can come and live there, they own the house,
Now,
but they can rent different things on an overnight basis.
but isn't that what this does? So when it's a resort commercial, it has to be under that guise.
Correct.
So there's two different, we have the individual, which would have to be individually licensed with the city.
Right.
But within a resort commercial, if you owned a residence inside a resort commercial, it would have to be run with.
Or a resort mixed use.
Or resort mixed use, correct. It would have to be run through their central booking period. Yeah, that's the way I would,
For something as big as Sitla, I think personally, I favor on-site, centralized
Absolutely.
management, centralized booking. And it's, you know, so maybe that needs to be, you know, they said they'd put it in their CCNRs as such and require a homeowners association. Maybe that needs to be added to their project plan, but I'm just kind of thinking.
kind of throwing things out now.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Gardner.
I just want to confirm that resort commercial does ensure that the city can enforce the ordinances, because my experience has been that just what Dale was describing, the ordinances are being violated and there's no way to enforce them. So does resort commercial ensure us the ability to enforce the law?
Well, I think an HOA has more leeway than a government agency, a subdivision of the state, and the state says, you don't use this method. I think in a homeowners association, word spreads a lot faster within the HOA. If somebody's violating the rules, potentially.
Potentially, because I have in my own neighborhood a chronic violation.
Yeah.
My previous neighborhood, I knew of several, and we knew, and they didn't bother us. We had no issues, never had cops at them, so we just ignored it and moved on. And that's, my point is that's why on the individual side, I would like to see it. If we just keep outlawing it, you just got people that are gonna continue to do it. If we give them a path to do it legally and then allow us to be able to collect on that, it seems to me like that there's at least a path for us to be able to regulate it. Where right now, it's happening all over the city. I'm telling you, it's all over this city.
I guess in order to renew your license, there has to be some way to prove that you paid the transient room taxes for the previous year.
Right.
And then I wouldn't have as much objection to what you're saying. Because right now, all these illegal ones, most of them aren't paying transient room tax.
Absolutely not.
No, they're not.
They're not doing
And
anything.
that's what we need to start collecting as a city, because, and there needs to be a fine or something associated with it if they are operating illegally,
Right. Right now, that's individually, it's too small for the tax commission to get involved.
Right.
You can, we've turned a property into them that we knew was operating illegally and not paying the taxes. And they said, we don't have the time nor the manpower to go after these small individuals. And so they didn't pursue it. And,
But us on a city level could. Is that correct?
boy, that might run the budget dry. Code enforcement right now costs us more to process than it does the fines we get out of it. We get compliance. So our main goal is compliance, not necessarily that we fine people to death, but that we get compliance. And so, but we haven't been able to, really our ability to enforce against short-term rentals, or that they have an overlay, that power to enforce has really been taken away from us.
Okay.
Financially.
All right.
It's
Well,
true everywhere.
yes, I agree. Okay. I still feel what we've suggested is what I would like to go. That is me, but we have to get a consensus from the council as to or the commission, excuse me, as to how we want this recommendation to go.
So are you making a motion?
No, I don't think we have a motion on this, right?
And you're suggesting the individual license?
I'm suggesting both. So we have an individual license, the overlays are gone, we have an individual license, and the resort commercial. So the
That's
resort
what I-
commercial has its commercialized central deal and on-site, and then the individual ones would be dealt with through help me, Mike,
Yeah, that's what I've gotten written down as where I thought you were going,
yeah,
with a recommendation.
yeah.
So
With,
I just wanted to
how
clarify.
come my brain just went blank?
You're doing great. Now, going back to the Black Desert, when they're doing theirs with their with their rentals, those are pretty easy, I would guess, those are pretty easy to enforce. I mean, people that are going to use that capability, then, well, I would be curious, how would you, do you do that? How do you plan on handling the person that does and does not want to take advantage of overnight rentals?
So first of all, every single unit on the project, whether it's a single-family home or a condo, has a card reader that changes with every check-in, check-out. So their card doesn't work. So they have to come through the front desk. We know whether that's a guest, an owner, or a paying hospitality. I meant a guest of an owner. So we control it. Our CCNRs, our HPMA, which is our hospitality property management agreement with them, states that if they rent without
Paying the fee.
coming through us, that they give up their right to access to their unit. It's extremely
Wow.
tough. I mean, so because we want everything to be done exactly the right way, the same way, and it's got to be about the guest experience, and having somebody go rogue puts the whole project at risk, just depending on how rogue they go.
Good. Thank you.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Black Desert pays the taxes.
Yeah,
They
right.
submit the taxes.
Yeah, so we would, we would not be able to leverage that concept.
Be
of
nice,
the
but
city.
no, on individuals.
Every time you get in your house, you gotta get a new card.
And doesn't VRBO collect the taxes now? I mean,
Yeah.
they are,
I've heard they do, and
Oh,
they're,
yes,
and they're
they do.
doing more of
yeah, so if you.
they're
do-
doing more in the way of kind of acting as centralized management rather than
Yeah, so we're gonna get our
these
transient
individual
rentals
things.
if
Yes.
they use VRBO.
They've
or
agreed with the
Airbnb.
state tax commission that they would require taxes be paid.
Yeah.
But not everybody goes through VRBO. There's a lot of,
Yeah, you have
individuals just on the
Airbnb
internet.
and, yeah.
Well,
Well, Airbnb's the same way.
Everything is the
They pay
same.
taxes.
Are
It's
they?
these private little deals that are undermining the system.
So back to, my proposal is that we allow it to, within the city, as long as they are licensed. I don't know why I could not think of license, but as long as they are licensed with the city. Now, obviously, there's some enforcement in that, and I understand that could become problematic. But at least that gives us a path to not only collecting the taxes, knowing what's going on with those properties, instead of it just always being under the counter. You know what I mean? That's my opinion on it.
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
So I read the STR ordinance, and, I mean, it's very specific. There are requirements, you know, two-car garage with a driveway that's long enough to, and I think those are the things that need to be enforced in licensing. I mean, that they can show and prove that they have those kind of things, if it's just gonna be hodgepodge throughout the city. And because there's a lot of teeth in that ordinance, if you read
Right.
through the whole thing. It's very specific.
So not
I
every,
don't want to get rid of it. The requirements of that ordinance are solid, just the overlay
Yeah.
issue.
yeah, so it's not like every house is gonna qualify in
Not gonna
Ivins.
qualify.
But, and that's a good thing too, because there's certain homes that just don't have the parking, they don't have the accessibility for that, and that's part of what this ordinance does, is say, you know, you've gotta be able to at least accommodate for these people. You can't just be parking down the street all the time and whatever.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Clifford.
The other piece that Mike brought up had to do with the garbage cans, which you would think would be kind of a, yeah, you know, not a big issue, but it is. You go to places that do a lot of renting, and there's a lot of short-term rentals in the area, and you see garbage cans everywhere, and they've been blown over, and the trash is. So that's something that we may want to think about as part of that requirement, is how do you deal with trash in those places? Because they come and they leave, and
Well, it's in
There's
this
no-
ordinance.
It's
Yeah.
in the ordinance.
but they don't. I mean, you still.
Well, enforcement is always,
But,
enforcement is always.
Yeah,
difficult.
okay.
But
we
on
may want
those
to make
is-
the rules a little bit.
yeah, but on that same side as that, when you're talking about things such as cleanliness and things like that, you as an owner of an Airbnb or VRBO, you want them clean. So you're gonna show up there or have your cleaning crew show up there and make sure it is perfect for the next guest.
Yep.
or you won't get the references, and you could even get dropped by VRBO or Airbnb if you're not keeping it to standards, so.
And I think one other just simple point is that this also can be part of affordable housing. If the people are using the short-term, more like an Airbnb, where they're living there, but they just one room or one section, and they can supplement their house
Income.
payment. I have my
Absolutely.
wife, we have an Airbnb. It's we built a granny's room for my parents to grow old in, and they both passed now, and so we rent it out as an Airbnb on 200 South, and I hope it doesn't get egged. But it generated so far this year $8,500, and that would be a significant $1,200 a month boost to someone's ridiculous nowadays $3,000 a month house payments. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it. Largest house payment I ever had was $750, and I strain to make it sometimes. So anyway, but that's still a viable, that we could
Yes.
tell the state, hey, look, we've reduced this requirement, this overlay, so that people can supplement their house payment by allowing people to come here. The Tuacon's a big draw. That's what most of the people that stay with us are hit a show and then they're gone.
Okay, do I at least have a consensus? Is everybody's good on this, or were any negatives? Commissioner Guardiola, I'm looking at you.
I know you are. I'm at peace.
Okay,
So next meeting, we will move forward with public comment.
Yes.
And vote on doing away with the short-term rental overlay and doing away with resort residential, and just have the two options for short-term rental, either the RMU or the RC zone.
yes,
Okay.
okay. Everybody good?
Sound good.
Sweet. Okay, moving on then. 3F, discuss and consider approval of the Ivins City Planning Commission meeting minutes for July 5th. You know who I'm looking at.
Mr. Chair, I have read the minutes.
They were,
And I moved
I looked
to
at my
approve.
name.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Guardiola and a second from Commissioner Larson to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from July 5th, 2022. Do I get a
Yes.
Yeah.
aye?
I,
All right. Planning Commission reports, anything?
Mr. Chair, yes.
Yes,
Um,
Commissioner Gardner.
Oh, yeah,
I-
she has.
I-
No, I want you, the thing you sent us.
Thank you, yes. I want to thank Mike for his work on my request to have at this meeting 3 things regarding the general plan, which now I can't remember. One was a draft timeline by which we would go through the general plan. Secondly was a strategy for community input. The third was what other items might be included in the general plan. And Mike and I had a conversation yesterday, and I wonder if you would share what we discussed about this. And as you're coming up, let me just say that I have gotten a couple of interpretations of approximately how long our charge to review the general plan was to take. I heard a year. I've also heard it's taken 2.5 years. I'm at peace with whatever it is. I just want to make sure that we are deliberately moving forward, which is why in April, I just went through this and said, here are the things I see that we need to talk about, so that I could put my hands around the scope of what we were doing in my initial perspective. And so if you'll share what we discussed yesterday, please.
So there's many parts to the general plan. The pressing part is the moderate income portion of it by October 1st. We will be bringing forth the general plan in whole. The timing, so the last city council, there was a little bit of a discussion about them wanting to meet together prior to us having a joint meeting, which would be like a kickoff meeting to the general plan. except for what we've already worked on. So I think that's when we could figure out the scope a little bit better and come together. And so we're not just throwing ideas out. Another thing that I've discussed with the department heads is that they also look at the general plan and how it affects them to come up with recommendations. So it's a slow process, and I think as soon as we take care of the zoning amendment that is basically the asterisk, then right now the cart's pushing the horse. So as soon as that's passed, then everybody's clear on exactly that the land use map shows vision. And so if you look at the RA1 and the RA5 zone, then you actually understand that there's this asterisk there, and it sends me directly to land use plan. And then it also says that it can be, the land use plan can be amended through a single action, through a land use concurrent zone change. So as soon as that happens, and if the city council already has the recommendation on land use, then maybe instead of pushing so fast on the land use portion, that we recognize that the general plan may be the better of the two documents to work on. So for time frame, I think an understanding of what kind of direction they want to keep following may be our best resolution at figuring out how to get there. When you have public hearings, the previous planning commission wanted to have something a little bit more solid before they had the meetings with the public, whereas maybe we might see it a little different now. So I think the discussion is to be had amongst the planning commission, what direction we want to go. I'm not always the one that will set the way things go. How we like to put together the agenda is to make sure that the applications are taken care of, because we have to comply with, we have to make progress on those and not just set those back on a shelf and wait till we're ready to see them. So those are important that we keep on the agenda. After that, if we add things to the agenda, either zoning amendments or to the code or a general plan, then I'm up to doing that. But I think a clear road is to get everybody's input first to make that decision.
There's one other thing, Mike, that I'd like you to talk about, but Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I may
Commissioner Cargill.
piggyback on what you've said. So what I'm understanding is there is eminently a joint meeting between the council and the commission. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that going to be
That
scheduled?
was suggested. I don't know exactly if that's going to occur. As we talked to Lance yesterday, he says, yeah, but maybe we should have something first from planning commission so we can have a joint meeting. So yeah, there was a little bit of discussion both publicly and with Lance that may not be consistent. So yeah.
Yeah, so that is my concern, is that if we don't have a clear direction forward, that we keep losing time. And we're 7 months in. If we're supposed to do this in a year, over half the year's gone. If we've got 2.5 years, maybe we're spot on schedule.
I
Is
think
there a way to
these
clarify?
dates are, to me, are kind of like pixie dust, If you rush through it, I don't think you get good policy. I think if we make sure we have the time to discuss it each meeting, and that we're not here till 10 o'clock every night where everybody gets frustrated and there's really not good policy, we're going to add it to the agenda and it's going to be talked about, but I don't know if a time frame, we could say a time frame. I thought the land use discussion would have been done in 3 or 4 months, and we're still working on it. So, but at the end, it's going to be a good product.
And I think there's a time and place for pixie dust, and the general plan probably isn't it. But I enjoyed it as a child. But
A, E, and F, let's go.
how do we clarify as a commission what what do we want to do so that when we have that meeting with the council, as you said, do we take them a strategy? What do we take so that the work session between the two of us is as substantive as possible to move forward on our charge that we've been given?
Well, the last joint meeting we had, I don't think was, I don't think we did very well at that. I don't think there was much other than we was told what they wanted. I think it was a waste myself, but yes, Commissioner Larson.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you are along the lines that you'd like to have some input from the community as we start, correct? Or is that,
Well,
because I'm not opposed to that. I mean, if
I-
I want to set a date, have a public
have to
hearing, let's set
have
a
the
date.
issues, though.
because I don't know about you, but I've been receiving lots of input from the citizens saying, when do we get to have a voice in where the general plan is going, which is the second thing that, Mike, I'd like you to visit about, and that is the draft survey that we've talked about, that there would possibly be public meetings that we could have. We've also discussed doing a survey so that we reach out to some citizens who may not normally have a voice, but maybe here's an opportunity for them to respond, so that then we have that as we're crafting the general plan, obviously.
And when we start putting it on the agenda, then maybe every night that we talk about it, we can come up with a question of the meeting and post it. So we did one for the fiber group. So if we want to start posting questions, we could do that at any time on the website. There was some response to it, to the last survey that we did. Some of the other companies cost money, whereas if we hosted it ourselves, then we don't have to pay a company to do that. So at any time we want to put questions up, we can. And like we did for the land use, we can have those type of meetings. But I'm not sure when this commission wants to have them.
Okay, so if I may piggyback off of that as well, if we do it on the website, does that get the response? And I realize we're never going to get a response from everyone, even if we take a hard copy survey to their doorstep. Some people are not going to respond. If we can look at cost effective, but input effective, so that we get as much input from maybe some people we wouldn't normally hear from. Is there a way cost effectively to do something like Survey Monkey?
At one point, I made the suggestion quite a while back, but I don't know if I understood if there is, what the legal ability is, but there's always the idea of push notification, which 911 uses push notification. Other types of things use push notifications, and even businesses do it. But and I don't know if there's a cost to that, but we used a push notification so that every cell phone that is within this Ivins city limits gets the notification.
To go to the website, look at the survey.
Whatever.
I'm not sure if we want to force people. I think if you let everybody know on maybe their water bill, that it's open and give them the choice to sign up for a program like that.
I haven't looked at my water bill in 2 years.
Or maybe some other
Mr.
way.
Chair, let me comment.
Water bill, pay for affordable housing.
I've been through a couple of these. This is a republic, not a democracy. And I say that in that I hate to say, but after being in politics for a long time, there's a lot of people who just don't care. And they're not going to give you a lot of good feedback.
Until it affects them.
Pardon?
Until it affects them.
Well, no, but that's a whole different animal, yeah. But the point is,
Until they want 12 chickens, it's not gonna
but
be, they can only have 6.
you want to find the people who are willing to invest time and thought in the process. And those are the ones you really want to get your inputs from. And then you treat it as a big data gathering, and then eventually you do vote effectively on the plan, because you propose different solutions to some of the issues that we'll come up with, like how do you fund? What's our funding mechanism gonna be? And those things will have to be decided, and you'll get some of the people who won't like the way it's gonna go, and you'll get some that will, and it's still gonna be a vote. It's not gonna please everybody, and you shouldn't even try, you know? You've gotta solve the problems of the city without making most of the city mad at you. That's probably
I just think that we're
good. If I
technologically.
knew everybody hated me equally when I was the mayor, that was how I knew I was doing a good job. Because you're gonna get such a variety of inputs, and you try to forge based on what you have to do. You gotta fund the city, you gotta keep the city, you know, safe, and all the other pieces of the puzzle, and everybody will have a little different way of viewing that, and so it is gonna be a.
I just think the technology that we are at today, and the use of technology in most people's lives, we have to look at different ways to notify people. You know, I understand that we're required to post in the newspaper before we do something. Are you kidding me? I haven't had a newspaper at my house in 20 years. You know, and how many people actually even read the newspaper? And the newspaper locally, you have to buy an online subscription if you're gonna look at it. I don't even buy the online
You have to
subscription.
post it out here too.
That's
Probably
fine.
more important.
But my point is that's not getting to most people. That's our requirement, and we're making our requirement,
Yeah.
but it's not getting to the people of Ivins. People of Ivins have no idea what's going on most of the time, like I says, until it affects them. We need to be looking at a better way electronically with our new age, our new abilities to get to these people so that they know. They can choose whether they want to participate or not. A push notification only notifies them that there's something to look at within Ivins. That's it. But we've got to start looking at ways to be able to get to these people so that they can see that there's something that they might need to look at, that they might want to be interested in. And that's a big thing for me. When I first came to this, that was kind of my big thing. In fact, when I ran for council, that was one of the big things, is I wanted the public to know more about what was going on, and to use our technology to get to the public so that they know what's going on. So
If we look at 1 out of the 3 nights we had the open house, the percentage of people that showed up to that compared to, you know, the city in whole.
yeah,
We had good attendance and we had good input, but we can't say that we heard from a majority of the city on the direction we were going.
yeah.
So I think you guys are the heart of the city. Between you and the council, you guys know the people here, you know, you hear their conversations, you talk to them, and you are the representatives that are the community.
But you're not accountable.
Well,
Okay,
we can
thank
work on some ideas
options or-
and kick them around. I'll talk to Cade. He's a little younger than me. He seems like he's a little bit more sophisticated in that type of communication.
Are you still back there, Cade?
He's not here.
Oh,
Nope, he's not.
okay.
I believe Scott's even gone.
I'm just in an agreement with Commissioner Larson that we should just kick this off with a public hearing, and how we advertise it, you know, if we get high tech or something like that. Because I really want to know what needs to be, you know, what, if someone's so desirable to open this up, they obviously don't agree with it, and so there's just something going on, you know, whether it's to, you know, change the direction of the city or whatever, but I think that if we just, I mean, I'm all for high-tech ways of announcing it, but I think I just agree with Commissioner Larson that we need to have a public hearing first and foremost, just for us, just for the planning commission, and field the concerns. And, you know, if they need more chickens on their property or what, you know, let's get that out right at the start, so that then we're going to proceed and not have an agenda driven, you know, that a certain group or small percent, you know, like it said in that book that you got us, you know, that we're not just being influenced by the 800 people that have, a pet peeve.
Okay.
May I suggest that voice of the citizen meeting, rather than just inviting the audience to talk to us, that we have it more of a work session? We've got several chapters in the general plan, and I don't know, I guess it's the facilitator in me, but we invite the folks to come together and cluster about their thoughts related to one of the chapters. Others may cluster around another. We get more of a synergistic level of input for us to look at because they interact with each other, and we get all of that input rather than having one person come up and speak, another person come up and speak. Let them talk with each other and see what we come up with. And I'd be happy to facilitate such a session. Just a thought.
So we have formal and informal.
Yeah. I'd be happy with an email response. Get the word out to people that, we're going to review the general plan and invite the citizens of Ivins to read the general plan and to give us input on how they feel. Commissioner Clifford's right. We're a republic, We have elected officials who will eventually see it, and it'll be their job to, say yay or nay. But, let's just, if it's an email blitz, let's send out an email blitz, let's have a meeting. And, sometimes with the informal meetings, like the ones we had in the park, I spent an hour listening to pet peeves of people that, I nod my head, I'm nice, but it's not the city's job to, solve some of those problems that were brought up. And I think you get a lot of that if you have an open, that's why I worry about having an open, like, workshop type meeting. That's my fear. I don't want to sit there for an hour listening to a pet peeve of somebody about their dog on a leash or whatever, that,
I agree.
so.
So it sounds like a formal public hearing.
Let's kick off an email blitz. Get, then we can talk to people in our neighborhoods, get people excited about it, email their friends and neighbors in Ivins, read the general plan, give us your input of what you want to see in the next general plan, and let's gather that information. We'll have a public hearing for those that want to come and talk as well, and let's start hammering it out.
So a couple of ways then. Read the general plan, email us your thoughts, come to the general hearing. So there's two ways people can provide input.
And make sure that there's a link connected with that. I mean, it took me a minute to go dig it out of the, so make sure we have a link in that email so that people can just simply click on the link, general plan comes up.
But I think a lot of neighborhoods have people who are plugged into the city. I know in my neighborhood, we have a late Dar neighborhood who's very plugged in, that listens to the meetings, and she'll send out, text to people, say, this is what the city council's talking about. If you're interested, you need to get involved. I think a lot of neighborhoods have people like that. We just need to get the word out and have the citizens read the general plan and either respond through email or come to a public hearing and, put forth their ideas, and we can, put those together and start hammering out a general plan to send to the council.
Well, it sounds like the starting point is to get an email list and see if we have one. I don't know if we have a Facebook page, as the city, but maybe that's where we start. And
I do know
then
we
you can
have
then friends who have friends can like the page or whatever you do. So the only time I do Facebook is my friends that are afar. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of different options we can use technologically wise to reach out and get a hold of people. That's my biggest thing, is make sure that people have knowledge of what's there and what's about. If they don't want to respond, that's fine, but they at least need to have the opportunity to. And I just don't think at this point we're giving them that opportunity, because they just don't know what's going on.
So we will have to have, for the recommendations to the city council, we will have to have a public hearing, because that is amending the general plan.
Correct,
So that will be the first time that we will have input from the public on that portion of it.
Okay.
And so it will be announced, and maybe we'll look at other ways of either starting a Facebook page or starting to accumulate a database of citizens somehow that want to be involved in what we're doing. So
So, Mr.
Get a lot of Tell them that we're messing with the lighting ordinance. That'll get them happy.
So we want input on the lighting portion of the general plan.
House color, lighting.
Get me
ordinance,
here
et cetera.
fired up.
Lighting ordinance will
Yeah.
be amended.
So that, we'll have everyone.
We'll have everyone here.
So we talked about a lot of things. Do we have a strategy in place for, so you've talked about, you'll check on the technology and so forth. So can we look at our assignments for the next meeting to keep this process going, your assignments for the next meeting? How do we keep the impetus going on the things we've discussed?
I would volunteer to talk to Cade and sit down with him and see what possibilities there are on the technology side of it, if you want me to take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a Facebook site may be the
yeah.
best way to do it, but
Yeah, I can talk to Cade on that and see what he's got.
my assignment is to put in paragraph form the 4 recommendations you guys have made for the city council on the moderate income housing. So that's what I'm going to work on for the next meeting myself. So.
Okay, and then as far as our meeting with the council, I'm still a little murky on what the next step is.
Yeah. So if I believe if the mayor wanted to follow through with it, he'll set the meeting. I'll have the discussion with them. I just remember there was a little bit of talk between 2 of the councilmen about having a discussion before that discussion. So.
And I'm happy to visit with the mayor as well and then report. I don't want to step on your toes, but,
No, that's fine.
all right.
My toes are pretty big, but it's
I don't want to step.
it's okay. It doesn't hurt much.
So, did you get your questions answered then, Commissioner?
Yeah, I encourage you, of course, as you all have, review the general plan and see if what I have drafted here is of any value. These are the things that I think just logistically need to be updated in the general plan. The maps, there's some statistics that need to be updated. Is there a role that we as the commission can play to help make that happen?
Okay. So we'll review that. Of course, we have been reviewing the plan, but we'll
Of course.
we'll review what you've sent out. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So are you considering putting a glossary in? Is that what your idea is with what the definition of encourage is? And, because I see define. I mean, do we just put a glossary in the back and then that takes care of it?
Well, the words like define or encourage, those kinds of words are pretty nebulous. And so do we as a city, and if I try to find one right now, I won't be able to, but what does it mean to encourage this? Do we have strategies? Is there something in the ordinance? How do we know that we are or are not encouraging? Or is there a better word to use? That we shall, we will. These are the things we will do to make these things come about.
I don't know if this is a shall document. I think this is a vision statement.
Off the top of my head.
Shall's a very strong word, and
Yeah, and
especially when you're in.
mandate would be a strong word, and
Yeah, so we will.
so some of the
do these-
nebulousness, I think, is part of the vision, is that it allows for creativity and interpretation on a growing basis, as opposed to if the interpretation is so strict that, on December 4th, you have to pull your thing, whatever, that doesn't work in a document. For instance, the Constitution and amendments and
Right,
things,
so-
the living document has to have verbiage like this that just allows it to breathe.
This is the vision statement. If you talk business, this is just the vision statement. If you start putting shalls in there where there's conflict with shalls, then I think there's a lot of discussion that constrains the vision. I do agree.
Right, and I misspoke. I shouldn't have even used shall. I just, encourage says, well, we're going to try. It's like saying, well, I'm going to try to do that. Well, either we do or we don't. If we try, then it becomes pretty nebulous. So that in a general plan, we know that this is the strategy, these are the things we're working toward.
The one thing I know about Ivins is big box stores is not part of the vision. So, going down that direction,
Shall not have big
there may
box.
be some things that in the general plan that may not support that idea. But they're, because you need jobs here, and you may be able to somehow take a sentence and say, but maybe we should have a big box store. And I don't think that we should go down those paths. I think it's just vision. And knowing that we like our community in a certain way, then that helps us make decisions in the future. It doesn't set decisions, but it helps us to say, hey, I've got 4 things on the general plan here that I've accomplished in this project. Yes, I'm going to vote for it, not just because it meets the ordinance, but that ordinance was based off of those concepts.
Exactly.
Agreed. Yes, Commissioner Larson.
I would just say before we start our public hearing on that, I vote that Commissioner Clifford give his water talk again.
Your water talk.
You beat me to the punch
He
on that.
he wants your water talk again.
That will be a lot of the topics I'm sure we get is about water, and I think a lot of people don't understand the ins and outs of the water,
There is an element also in the general plan that talks about water, but state law requires you to have that in the plan within the next 5 years. So that little paragraph needs to be updated too.
Well, yeah, and my understanding is we're gonna lose even more control of the water here in
Yeah.
over the next year.
That was, Mike Scott actually sent out another little blurb on one of the Facebook-like things when. Ivan's neighbor. I don't want to advertise it, but, same thing. I mean, that's the way it's headed, because they have to control the whole valley. It's not just us.
So,
Well,
But we have control over maybe conservation,
yeah,
so.
right.
it's true.
Okay,
That's our
do we get everything?
requirement.
Oh, sorry. Did we get everything answered then? Okay.
Except world peace.
I do not have
No reports from anybody else? And I have no reports, and I think you just gave your report. Anything else you need?
So the meeting in October, between the second meeting and the first meeting in October, there's 3 weeks. And I'm not sure what the city council will do, but they'll be at they can go to the Utah Leagues of Cities and Town. If they change their meeting, I think we should change our meeting to the week before. So
Okay.
maybe we just do it and give the city council the choice to go ahead and change their meeting a week ahead, or the week prior. If we do it, it makes it possible for them to do it also.
So you're saying September the 27th?
7th, yes.
Wait, why do I not?
September or October.
So October 5th, 6th, and 7th
It's on your
are
screen.
the
That's the League of City and Towns.
Yeah.
Utah, and there's all,
So Commissioner Guardiola, I think you indicated you would like to attend.
Yes.
So we'll take care of the registration. Lodging is on your own, but they do have you'll see at the bottom there, a league conference rate is available at the Plaza Hotel. If you wanted to try that, then you could see about contacting them. Is there anyone else from the commission who would like to attend that annual
And that's 4th, 5th, and 6th of October?
Well, no, it's the 5th through the 7th,
5th, 6th, and 7th.
but you really need to go up on the
Agenda.
4th.
Move our meeting to.
so
I
it'd
think
be
I would
to
like-
the 27th
Of
Of
September.
September.
of September, yes.
So we'll have 2 in a row, then you have, still do the 20th, and then the 27th? Would that be the?
No, it would be the
Oh, you got
13th.
an extra.
Yeah, so the first one,
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I believe
got
it's
you.
like the 31st.
On the 20th. Why did I do that?
Because it's the way I did it in my phone too, because the planning commission will actually be in
Three in
August
August.
30th for the Ivins City one on the 1st. which means the next one will be on the
One in
13th.
September is in October, is in August.
Is in August, exactly.
Well, we are the Tuesday.
27th.
I'll be gone on the
Tuesday
27th. I
before
won't be
the
here. I'll be
first
out of town.
Thursday.
September. Starting in September,
that's true.
what are the new
That's the way it
dates?
works.
The 20th is no longer, we're going to 27th, right? September 27th.
So yes, on the
is gonna be
27th, let's move that to the 27th. So yes, so your date's in,
27th, and then, so then the 4th goes away, but we're keeping the 18th,
correct.
Yes.
okay?
And then in September, you have actually August 30th, September 13th, and then the new September 27th.
13th and 27th.
It's because of the way our phones are set up that did that.
Yeah, you can't do it every 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it messes
Okay.
you up.
Dale, anything from you?
So did we get any other
Yes, I want
responses?
to.
Okay.
I want to be.
Okay.
Yes.
And you got some time to think about it. Registration is usually open closer to the end, but hotels aren't. So you might find yourself in Park City, like Wally Ritchie did one year, but he enjoyed it. He commuted down and
Or you'd be at
attended the
Twillo.
conference. Yeah. So, so lodging is on your own. That's just too much, really, for the city to handle if people change plans and things. And you might have your own lodging, and you might have relatives up in the Salt Lake area or whatever, so we'll let you take care of that, but we will register you. The city will pay for that, and so if you just let me know if you're interested in attending, we'll get you signed up.
So yeah, put me on that list, please.
I'm in Denmark, so I won't be able to make it.
So you'll be there. You'll give up your seat for me?
not gonna.
That's nice of you.
I'm going to a Lego tour, can you believe that?
A Lego tour?
Lego, yeah, the original Lego building,
Wow.
so,
Okay, that's all I have.
That's all. Anything on future agendas we need?
Been enough time.
We're good. Adjournment.
Go.
I move that we adjourn. Excuse me. I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
And a vote.
Done.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, good, we're out of here.
I think you guys have it.
The eyes are above the nose.
I know,
Dale.
I feel.
Yes.
Took it to the county and they said, okay. I mean, it wasn't easy. It took 45 days to physically get the license from the time of the ruling. But it's pretty exciting. Yeah, I 2 night minimum, and then there's the cleaning fee, $95 for us to drive. And it used to be 75 with gasoline now, you know, it's like, because we did our taxes last year, and Lori and I drove up there 75 times. Last year, you know. But it was a, you know, here I retired, and it was part of the, you know, the income. It was money, and then the county said, no, you can't rent it, you know, and so, boy, that stayed on budget saved my life. He was, you know, it was, and they were great to work with. Took them 6 months. Yeah. Oh, they have to, yeah. And but it took 6 months, but man, it was worth every day for us. And we had shut it down. We quit advertising. We did honor, because people reserve it a year out, you know, people go on right now and get next year's July 4th, right? And we don't change our price for holiday weekend or anything, you know. And so we kept on, you know, I think we had 4 rentals we had to honor after we lost our license. And so we honored those 4, which was illegal, but we, you know, we did that. But this morning, we got the license yesterday. It was my wife's 60th birthday yesterday, and she opened up the envelope. It took 45 days. We went down there at least 3 times a week. Okay, what now? What do you need us to do now? What? Oh, we need this fixed. Okay. I had to move a handrail out. You know, just jump through the hoops, because we, you know, but now we've got our license, and so we're back in business. Yeah, very happy day. How's your summer going? Good. Did you get a vacation?
Absolutely, because it would be a lot. They're gonna cut down on the first. And when they put in, I don't think it's still in Ivins, it's Ivins and Ivins. So there's that strip mall, they also had a little bit, not as much water, but they also had. I turned the corner. But they just didn't, they just absolutely just went in and cleared it out. And why can't we do it, why can't we do it again?
Last week of therapy. I go see Dave Esplin, from State Police.
Oh, yeah. He's my friend.
He does a great job. He says, on paper, you're right on target. He says, I know to you, you feel really stiff. I said, yeah,
We're just a suburb of Vegas.
after this council meeting.
We are not, we have
pace
lost, we are, like,
manipulation of my leg to try
I
to
see
get it back.
who's doing it.
So, you know, he's pretty nice. He,
And how to
what he'll do is,
by the way, my business is natural resource.
once you exhaust your 20, so it's a hard 20 visits is all you're allowed by the insurance.
When I have seen the nudity and degradation of how they have just down
Even
the
if your
road.
doctor prescribed more, 20 is all you
Community
get.
that is thoughtful and that is masterful.
So,
It's massive, yeah, it's
it used to be
masterful.
would have an
And
open
it's
gym
taking
policy,
into
so you could use their
consideration
equipment and
that
stuff.
zone
They don't, I usually
very
doesn't
easily
allow
start
them.
creating habitats.
You can't use any of their equipment. That's okay, I got stuff at home.
And the thought that that will grow.
What I don't have
So right.
is his magic tins.
Right.
So he uses a tins unit, so that gets the muscle all warm. And then he
Like in the middle of.
uses some oil,
And block 2.
massaging oil,
They
kind of
denuded it.
pushes the fluid out.
Right.
And then he has me swing over, and he's just kind of working it, and pushes, gets it back, and he pushes a little further, and he's kept me on target. Every week I hit my
Where he's flexibility, yeah.
But this Sunday was the first time I said, tell my wife, hey, come here, look at this.
And I have a vision.
On my own here,
I can't wait to share.
because I couldn't make it
I have a vision.
past like 95 degrees.
Ties in our indigenous beautiful neighbors.
And I said, look at this, this is
You know what,
been almost as far as my left.
you know where they did the beautiful.
My left knee hasn't progressed since Dave stopped. And I said, hey, my left knee, you know, it stopped where you left it.
Where, yeah,
He says,
where-
yeah, maybe we need to work that. So on Friday, we'll talk about, I don't want to take all his time because that's a generous offer.
where that, where would be the back of the main driveway. Then what the city does is that where they denuded it, is that they do a re-veg with money from the state for habitat for pollinators and birds. And they re-veg that with the trail. Not even, not even the trail.
That's sort of what messes
So
you
when
up.
they go from here, then the
The second one, I've got a spike down my leg.
So that would be.
Twice as long
that would
as
be
the one
Chelsea,
that
but I think Park Luper Park.
I see the doctor.
Then you create that corridor for invertebrates and you say why. You may increase your shade habitat and
Why did you get all that hardware? What's wrong with my bones in my right leg?
To the west,
I may have weak bones.
you take people through that old growth forest. So you talk about everything. You talk about
So,
create like, not,
gosh,
so
I had an ice machine, icing. Oh, cold.
hardscaping.
I think it was chilling the metal inside. Oh, gosh, it just,
And it already has a
I would,
natural.
I would be shivering.
Yeah.
I
Just think of it,
control
though, you got a piece of metal with it.
So, you know, I'd go to bed and put this ice machine on, and it's like 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. I finally did 10 minutes on, 20 minutes off. And that was still too cold. By the morning, I was still, I'm shivering, breathing blankets. And so I finally ripped that off, throw it on the ground.
So you can get some sleep.
Yeah.
Can't heal without
So
sleep.
he finally says, well, I think you're past